you.
Yeah,
Yes.
התוכנית שלנו מצולמת במהלך תחרות רובינשטיין, התחרות המפוארת של ישראל הבינלאומית לפסנתרנים. והעורך שלנו הוא אחד השופטים בתחרות, הפסנתרן האיטלקי הנודע אנדריאה בונטה, שהוא גם מנצח וגם פדגוג וגם מחבר של ספרים, ועל כל הדברים האלה נדבר איתו. שלום אנדריאה.
Shalom, Arik.
It is your first visit to Israel.
It is my first visit to Israel. You cannot believe how happy I am to be here.
Italy and Israel are competing on the touristic attractions. Both of us, old countries with beauty of nature, with history. You are spoiled with all those things. Yourself, you are from the north.
I'm from the north, yes. I was born in Bolzano, which is a bilingual area, you know. It's near to Austria. So we speak German, Austrian, I mean, actually, at South Tyrolean dialect, you know.
Your mother tongue is actually German.
It's very difficult to say. I was grow up with a German-speaking grandmother, so my first language was actually Austrian. And then I attended to Italian school. I had a completely Italian education, so I became more Italian. And then now I have a German-speaking wife. I'm more German. And
But when you speak English, it sounds more Italian rather than German.
so that's probably the answer to the question. Yes.
So you are Italian.
Yes.
The view, the landscape from your home in Epan, I know it, is marvelous, it's spectacular. Can you describe it a little bit?
Well, this is a hill area where we have a lot of grapes and wine. Not so good as Israeli wine.
Thank you very much, but I can tell you your wine is better, okay.
Wonderful area with the Dolomites, the famous mountains, you know. And we have lakes, we have beautiful things, and we have also a lot of music there.
And the weather?
The weather is like in the Alps, you know. It's very hot in the summer, quite cold in the winter. It's more north weather, Central European climate, you know. It's nothing to do with Italy, what you understand under Italy, you know, Naples or something like that.
And Bolzano and Epan, your residence is blessed by the recollections of Benedetto Michelangelo.
That's it, yes. He was living there, and he invited very often the best students to master classes in the summer. And then was my idea to found an academy in his name, you know, and to go further with this tradition. And this is the Piano Academy Epan, which is very successful. You know this.
Would you say that Michelangelo was the greatest Italian pianist?
Well, he was at his time absolutely not only the greatest, but the only.
How would you describe his art of piano playing?
Extremely intellectual, extremely deep, and extremely, concentrate on sound and on touch and on style. He was yes, but well, you know, there are many contradictions also in his kind of playing the piano, but I think he was one of the greatest, of course.
Would you say he represents the real Italian school of piano playing?
Difficult question, because you know that there are so many tendencies and so many, but this kind of playing the piano was absolutely unique at that time, and it was not only unique for Italy, it was unique for the world, I think. It was really something new. Perfection, as he did, was really something new.
And the beauty of sound. Like I remember, I thought to myself, oh, this man wakes up in the morning and what he sees around himself is only beauty. Then he must reproduce this kind of beauty.
Probably, yes. Probably there is also a relationship between the environment and the feeling, of course.
You were trained as pianist and later on became a conductor. And we would like to watch the first clip You conducting a Brahms symphony, where was it? In which country?
This was in Korea some years ago with the Suwon Symphony Orchestra, actually.
Andrea, you look like a born conductor, but actually you are a born pianist. You changed into conducting at a later stage of your artistic development, like many pianists who became conductors.
I think it's quite normal for a pianist, you know, after playing such big pieces like last Beethoven sonatas or Brahms sonata, the natural development of this is to look after the universe of music, which is in the great symphonies, you know. And well, I discovered to be quite talented a conductor, actually starting conducting from the piano some Mozart concertos about 15 years ago. And they encouraged me to try to conduct some symphonies, and I did, and it was very successful. So I discovered this talent quite late in my life, but I think I'm looking forward to more and more experience in this sense, and I'm very happy to be able to do it, because it's the most beautiful experience you could have.
Tell me, what is the difference between becoming conductor from a very early stage of your artistic development, from school time, from teenage, or becoming a conductor at the age of 40?
I just can guess, because I know only my situation. And in my situation, conducting is just to collect all the experience of your life, all the musical experience you did before, and to put this in a new way of making music, you know. And I think this is something you can do not before 40 or 50, when you are a little bit mature already, and some white hairs. They help a lot.
Yeah, your white hair is very beautiful for the conductor.
Thank you very much, not as yours, but well, and this is now my goal, to collect all what I did until now, especially speaking about Brahms, and to put my feeling and all my knowledge in the conducting, and to discover also what is inside of these great symphonies.
Many pianists became conductors stage by stage. First you play the piano, then you play a Mozart concerto as soloist conductor, and you dare to give signals from the keyboard to the orchestra. Then you get the appetite, and then you dare to stand and to become a real conductor.
That's it, exactly, how it happened, yes.
We would like to watch now a second clip with yourself playing the Mozart concerto as pianist and conducting at the same time the orchestra. Andrea, you do it so beautifully, so naturally, but you know that many people think that being a soloist conductor, dismissing the conductor and doing everything by your own self-service, being your own conductor, your own pianist, many people think it is showing off, that this is not the way it should be done.
No, I think there's nothing with showing off. You need this this feeling with the orchestra. You need to be like a chamber musician in a group, you know, and no, and you don't have time to show off at all. I mean, you must be very concentrated on your playing, but also on each instrument, on what's the sound which coming out from the other instrument. And this kind of dialogue is exactly what I think it should be, playing Mozart concertos. So I think it's actually the most natural way of playing, like Mozart did it.
How was the performance practice during Mozart time?
Well, I'm not so expert about this and not a musicologist, but I have always heard that Mozart played his concertos by his own.
Without any conductor.
And without any conductor. And and after some not so pleasant experience with some conductors, I asked myself, why not to try to do the same? I mean, it's so natural, so direct, and you really feel in a group. And that's the most important
And it's
aspect.
more together even, while the job is shared between the concertmaster who is leading the first violin and the orchestra and yourself who signals to everybody.
Yes. And of course, you get impulse from the others. You give them some impulse, musical impulse, and so I think it works perfectly. It works perfectly. This music is written to be played this way, I think.
And from which stage would you say a soloist conductor is not anymore possible?
Well, this is conducting from the piano, as it was usually only possible for Mozart concerto, but now I heard Beethoven concerto as well, and even Liszt concerto. I've heard the second.
Liszt concerto?
Liszt, you cannot imagine. And it works. Well, I don't think we could never play Brahms concertos without conductor.
I know it.
That's for sure the limit.
It could be possible with Ravel, for instance, for two hands, but not for the left hand, because the orchestra is so big.
So big,
but
yes.
it could be fun, you know, to play left hand Ravel concerto and to conduct
Well,
at the same.
who is able to do it?
So
Yes.
the size of the orchestra is what?
I mean, yes, the development of the orchestra was so incredible that at a certain point, without conductor, you cannot do it. You cannot manage it.
How about Schumann concerto? Would you do it as soloist conductor?
It's not impossible. I think it's not impossible. Why not? Is it just? It reminds me so to chamber music, Schumann chamber music. So similarities and so many similarities there. I could imagine, yes.
The second movement, for instance, the pum 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 pim. Yeah,
Yes,
that could be better without a conductor.
perhaps.
And speaking of Schumann, we would like to invite you to the piano to play for us one part from Kreisleriana.
I will try my best.
Andrea, the way you played it was like telling a story. Can you tell me in a verbal language what was the story, and I will compare it to what I thought?
Well, the story is a very intimate story. Of course, it's about this kind of, we call it Gemütlichkeit, you know, this sense of being at home in front of a fire when outside it is snowing, you know. And I think it's not, I'm sure you realize that.
Christmas time?
This is a Christmas song, Stille Nacht, you know.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable, and I'm always very touched about this piece. When I play the World Kreisleriana and I arrive to this point, I must always be very careful.
Not to have wet eyes.
To think what is still coming, which is very which is very difficult.
Yeah, and then comes this moment, pam 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 pa with a psi motif. What happens there?
I think there are few voices speaking. You know, I'm not ashamed to think about Clara and Robert and his father, for instance. The bass voice, the authority, you know. And this is a dialogue between different voices and a story about Christmas and perhaps about children.
Yeah.
And, well, but of course,
and the Kinderszenen and the lost childhood,
absolutely,
and the lost paradise.
Absolutely.
As a jury member, as a judge at the Rubinstein competition, do you expect the pianist, the young pianist, the contestants, to tell you a story?
Absolutely. That's more or less the only thing I expect from them. Because I know they are so professional, they play so well the piano, you know, this is already obvious, you know. You don't have to count how many wrong notes they do, because very often there are no wrong notes at all, you know. But what really I expect to them that for them that they take me to some place, you know. They give me some idea of something, you know, they have in their soul, in their imagination.
And if somebody comes from a cultural background without Christmas?
I'm sure I would understand any other different cultural background. I mean, music is music. If you tell stories, you tell your own stories.
Your life experience through the sounds of Schumann?
Of course, the sound of Schumann is very rich, very poetic, very intimate. Parlando, so speaking, is a speaking language.
What's the difference between parlando and cantando? Singing and speaking.
Parlando is, I think, more personal, and you know, it has a lot to do with also recitando, which is you know, you speak with many inflection and many breathing, and so this is your own, you know, phrasing. But cantando has to do with singing, and it's a very different thing, you know. You have to have long lines, you have very different, probably different kind of speaking with the voice.
Yeah, I thought that cantando makes it more beautiful, and parlando is telling the truth.
Perhaps, but if you are...
Okay.
You don't tell the truth. You tell your imagination.
You wrote a fantastic book about Brahms. So you conduct Brahms, you play Brahms, and you made a research about Brahms so that you can really get into the inner stories of Brahms. How many years took you to write this Brahms book?
Actually, when I was recording the complete piano works by Brahms, I was also writing the cover notes, you know, for the disc. And so I collect all this when I was finished, and I say, wow, it's quite interesting. Why not to go deeper into this? And so it took me 4 years.
4 years.
Researching, yes, and I learned a lot, and I think this is something you do for yourself, first of all, and for your grandchildren.
Oh. And I cannot think of a better general conception of Brahms than playing his music, conducting his music, and writing about his music. So let us watch a clip of your Brahms conducting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, so much for being with us. You mentioned that this is your first visit in our country, so let us hope that you come soon for the second one and the third, and we shall be privileged to host you again here. Thanks,
Thank
Andrea.
you, Arie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was my
Thank
great
you.
pleasure. Great pleasure.